Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of January 13th to the 19th of 2025. All right, so this week we have a full moon right at the beginning of the week on Monday. The full moon is the halfway point of the lunar month and also the most heightened energy in the month as well, speaking in terms of where we're usually getting some insights, a higher perspective on our life journey up to this point, and maybe where we can make some shifts and changes to continue on that journey. So it is going to be right in between both Gemini and Cancer. So likely a mix of both of those energies. Gemini is the cerebral mind and communications, maybe doing a status check with how we're thinking, learning, being curious, interested. These would be really good qualities to develop. And also Cancer, which is more about the emotional or caring and nurturing aspects of ourselves. So how can we integrate some of that as well? Both of these signs are about the fundamental pillars of life. They're seen as both on the bottom of the chart, which represents the mind and body connection. And so anything that is about cultivating that mind and body connection, I think is absolutely fantastic to now implement and move forward with this full moon. Now the full moon will be conjunct Mars retrograde, so this really highlights an important time for this, what has been reflection on our drives, who we are, what we want, and taking a little bit of a back step with some of that fiery energy. So likely getting a status check or a bit of insight with that, which can be very helpful also. So that's definitely the important thing this week on Monday. As we go through the week, Venus will be squaring Jupiter on Tuesday. This can give us a little bit of a pendulum swing with some of the enjoyments and maybe relationship stuff. So good to find some constructive energy with that. The sun will be opposite Mars as part of that full moon going exact on Wednesday. And then I would say the last important thing about the week is that on Saturday, Venus, the planet of those values and relationships, will be over responsible Saturn. So there's likely a new beginning here in terms of valuing things a little more responsibly, patiently, more long-term, and probably those responsible energies coming through in our one-on-one connections as well. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, January 13th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. For example, I'm saying that the full moon is in Gemini, and so if that sounds off to you, definitely check out the link down below. We're using the visible sky, which is very different from mainstream astrology, and so the signs do change. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of a recap. We don't have any sign changes this week. We had some last week though, so we'll get a bit of a context now. The Sun and Mercury are well set in Sagittarius. It's still a week of seeing the bigger picture. How can we healthfully expand both of our mental and literal horizons? Sagittarius is all about getting into more of that abstract, free-spirited, and adventurous side to life. Which can be fantastic. The sun will be finishing Sagittarius though this week, starting to get into more responsible Capricorn next week, but we'll of course be talking about that when the time comes. So within that Sagittarian expansive context, we've got Venus in progressive Aquarius. So when it does come to all those values and enjoyments and relationships that we're talking about, the things and people we want to connect to in life, it's great to do so in a visionary way, in a progressive way, in a way of maybe connecting in the realm of the future, the world, collective energy, and usually a bit good to maybe connect a little bit there as well. So just through friends or community and things like that. Maybe even enjoying some innovative stuff with Venus there. And of course, Mars retrograding Cancer, reflecting on where we're taking action, how we're taking action, who it is, what do we want. This is all going through that reworking process with which the full moon will be highlighting. So let's go and get right into that because the full moon is right here on Monday and right in between Gemini and Cancer. conjunct, highlighting, emphasizing that retrograde Mars. So first of all, the halfway point of the lunar month, the last 2 weeks has been about building momentum to this point. And now we're doing a status check. Really good to do a status check in terms of how things have been going in our life the past 2 weeks. And also the past 6 months as well, as this is the part of the sky where we had a new moon 6 months ago. So it's all about status check. It's all about being a higher perspective. That solar energy is bouncing off of the moon. We are getting a lot of that illumination, which is also symbolic for a little bit more of that forward movement out in the world energetic phase of the lunar month. But status check nonetheless, and this is going to be about both Gemini, the practical, cerebral, communicative qualities of ourself, and Cancer, the more protective and nurturing qualities. So the mind-body connection, really highlighting both the mind and the body, and how can we develop more of these qualities in healthy ways. With Gemini, I would say curiosity, being interested, being curious, being flexible, adaptive, right? All of that more kind of lighter on our toes, more mental, more changing, more curious, more learning type of energy, I think is really good. And so asking ourselves, how has that been these past 6 months or 2 weeks? And how can we maybe make some shifts and changes to incorporate a little bit more of that healthier, practical, curious Gemini sort of energy? Now, it is going to be very close to Cancer, and Cancer, the more body aspects to this is we can ask ourselves, how has the more emotional, protective, caring, nurturing aspects of ourselves been going this past 6 months and 2 weeks, right? And so are we checking in with our body? Are we being self-caring, self-nurturing? Are we caring and nurturing for those that are important to us in life? And how can we connect to more of that side of ourselves? So it really is the Cancer side that's likely going to be the strongest of the full moon, seeing as that Mars is here being activated, and the moon will immediately go into Cancer after the full moon. So with Mars, though, it's already been, reflecting on maybe getting more in touch with that caring and nurturing side. And so this is going to be, I think, another step in the right direction. But what I would say is really important with this is now we're starting to illuminate that Mars retrograde. There can start to be now a lot more awareness about that reflective side, that the reflecting on that proactive side that we've been doing. So we've already been, this past, what has it been, over a month now, this reflection on who we are, what we want, where we're putting our energy, how are we asserting ourselves, how are we going about things in life, and again, adapting this, changing this, experimenting with this. So now the full moon is really like the halfway point to the status check of this Mars retrograde. How has that been going? Maybe there's some things we can become aware of about ourselves, our needs, how we assert ourselves, that will help us continue to reflect and learn in this retrograde time period. And the Gemini side's cool too, because Mars is going to go back into Gemini as part of this retrograde here in just about a week. And so that's going to, this gives us a little bit of a prelude in regards to that curious and inquisitive side that can be activated as well. So this is all getting illuminated, and I would say fundamentally it's that mind-body connection. How are both of those going? How can we maybe integrate both of those as well? And also the illumination of that assertive, direct, and proactive side that's been going through a reworking process already for the past month plus, and will be for a little over almost a couple months, not quite, but a couple months. So we're kind of at the halfway point of it anyways here. So a little bit of a status check with that fiery nature as well. The full moon will be opposite Pluto, and this is of course the sun as well. And so of course when we get into that more of that curious, inquisitive energy, it's great to remember to see the bigger picture. And I think that's really what this is about. Seeing the bigger picture, being open-minded, and being willing to learn from a higher perspective. And that's the Sagittarius balance to that. That balances the Gemini inquisitiveness. In regards to the Cancer protectiveness, the balance of that I would say is definitely coming through in the Pluto side. And this is that, it's really good to connect to what we want to achieve and accomplish. And so to balance out the more emotional aspects, how can we still be focused on what are the changes we want to make? in our life that have to do with our structures we've been building in life. What are our long-term plans, our productive life, maybe our legacy, things like this, more on that productive side. And so Pluto's come in to transform and restructure all of this, with Pluto entering, now officially has entered Capricorn, where he'll stay for almost the next, with Capricorn, about 18 years. And, there's going to be a lot of transformations to our structures, to the things we're building. And so when we are connecting to that protective, emotional, caring side, and reflecting on the past and all this, remembering to be willing to make structural changes to the things we've built up to this point. And seeing that higher and bigger picture, really both Sagittarius and Capricorn are the top of the chart, and this deals with that bigger, higher perspective on life. So while it is about illuminating the mind-body foundation, balancing that with illuminating the more outer, extrinsic, bigger picture aspects of life as well. All right, but nonetheless, a full moon, it's going to be trining up to Neptune. A little bit of receptivity can actually come a bit easy at this time. So that's nice to see as well. All right, so that's definitely the most important thing about the week, the halfway point of the lunar month. And what I would classify the rest of the week as is really implementing that full moon's insights, and anything that we could be shifting or changing direction with. There is going to be the sun trining Uranus here on Monday as well, which means it's sextiling the full moon, which can give us a little bit of innovativeness, a bit of progressiveness, a bit of willingness to mix things up, and listen to our excitement a little bit more as well. Okay. Now, as we do get into that Tuesday time, like I said, the moon will be going into Cancer. So there is that protective energy probably getting particularly emphasized on Tuesday. And Venus will be squaring up to expansive Jupiter. So there can be a little bit of a pendulum swing, like I was saying, with the connections, which is either a connection to life or a connection to our relationships. And because, Jupiter gives us that sense of kind of buoyancy and optimism, but with the square, it can go to over or under extremes. And so how can we healthfully enjoy things in life? How can we healthfully enjoy our connections and relationships? And if there is any kinds of things that we could be buoyant about, seeing that we can work on them constructively, build them constructively. And so this can be a great way of working with Tuesday. Now, as we get into Wednesday, the moon will shift into Leo. So we'll have that moon in Leo Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That gives us a little bit of that fiery energy there, in a way of maybe good to cultivate some play, some fun, some creative energy, connecting more with our hearts, connecting more to the things and people that we love with that moon in Leo. So it is a great middle part of the week for self-expression, let's just say. And when we talk about that kind of Mars reflection of who we are and what we want going through reflection, there'll probably be even another insight or another step in the right direction with this around Wednesday, Thursday, once the sun opposes up to Mars there. So this can sometimes come through in relationships, how we're interacting with others, as oppositions can often be the case. So anything that does get mirrored back to us, reflected back to us in other or our environment, that deals with, again, learning more about who we are and what we want, being flexible about that, being willing to learn about that, being adaptive with that, I think is great. And again, I think some nice positive steps in the right direction regarding those kinds of things. All right, on Friday with that moon in Leo, very minor note, the sun will be sextiling Neptune. That's the trine to Neptune with the full moon. Again, there's just this easier receptivity about the week. We also felt that coming off of last weekend with Mars trining Neptune. So we just have Neptune in good supportive energy with a lot of what's going on. And Neptune is that more spiritual planet, or that planet that's more about going with the flow, being more soul aligned, more receptive, more receiving, being willing to receive from life kind of stuff. And so we just have a little bit of support there, generally speaking, I would say. Now, once we do get to the weekend, the moon will go into Virgo, the improvement-oriented constellation, which is all about getting more in touch with that detailed, pragmatic, improvement-oriented, structured type of energy. So really good for personal development, as I always say with Virgo. But a good weekend for anything improvement-oriented, really. And the most important thing here is that Venus will be conjunct Saturn, and Mercury will be sort of sextiling it, so just kind of supporting it. But Venus conjunct Saturn marks a new chapter for the year, for the Venusian year, when it comes to responsibilities. And so Venus is, again, the planet of values and relationships, is going to be starting a new chapter with responsible Saturn. So a great weekend for responsibility in general, seeing the value of responsibility in general, probably feeling a little bit more responsible, patient, disciplined, and connecting to life more in that way, which can be a very supportive force. If you do want to set some intentions for the year in regards to incorporating more of that responsible, patient, disciplined approach to life, this could be a great time to do that. And any new things that start around this time will likely hold that kind of energy. So really good for the weekend here around that more long-term view that Saturn gives us, especially in the context of our values, enjoyments, and really anything we're wanting for that future when we're looking at Aquarius there like that. So Mercury, that kind of curious planet like Gemini, is in support to it. So maybe some things to be learning, communicating with those relationships, maybe a bit of a responsible mind as well over the weekend. All right, everyone. So that is the week in a nutshell. Put simply is that we are in the full moon coming into the week. And so a status check. How is the mind-body approach to life? Are we curious with the mind? Are we nurturing with the body and the personal aspects of our life? Most importantly, how can we do now a status check with the Mars retrograde? How is that fiery side, our proactive side, who we are and what we want? This has all been going through a reflection, and now we get an illumination of this, which can be very nice and help shift things in the right direction or more in the right direction with it. And this will be really all week, as the sun will be opposite Mars midweek, and of course Mars will continue retrograde for the coming weeks. So as we get that insight around Monday, it's a great week for implementing that insight and starting to come to the, starting to get a little bit lower energy from the peak there on Monday, but implementation is really the name of the game. Tuesday, a little bit of balance with enjoyments and relationships with the square to Jupiter. Can be opportunities there, but we want to make sure they're grounded because it's a square. And then towards the weekend here, a bit of that improvement nature, but specifically with that responsibility of Saturn. So seeing the value of that long-term view, that patience, that discipline, that perseverance, really, when it comes to our enjoyments and connections to life. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for the live stream. We have a live stream going live every Sunday here, just a few hours after this upload. Do stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, I hope to see you there. But either way, have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.